Some stories feel like they're pulled straight out of science fiction. They're tales of impossible technology, of encounters that defy all logic, and moments that completely shatter our understanding of the world. But this isn't a novel. This is the documented, declassified account of one of the most credible military encounters with an unidentified aerial phenomenon in modern history. It's a story about what happens when the most advanced naval assets on the planet come face to face with something that simply shouldn't exist. This is the story of the USS Nimitz, its elite pilots, and a day in November 2004 when the line between the known and the unknown was blurred forever. For the men and women who were there, it was a moment that would change their lives, and eventually force the world to confront a reality it had dismissed for far too long. The day started like any other. Perfect weather. Clear blue skies off the coast of San Diego. Just a routine training exercise for one of the most advanced carrier strike groups in the world. But for 2 weeks, something had been watching them. Radar operators on the USS Princeton, the high-tech nerve center of the fleet, had been tracking what they called multiple anomalous aerial vehicles. These weren't birds, and they definitely weren't weather balloons. They were phantoms on a screen, appearing instantly at 80,000 feet, right at the edge of space, before plunging to just above the ocean in less than a second. For days, the crew just watched these ghosts on their scopes, until finally, they decided to send their best pilots to see what was really out there. It was November 14th, 2004. About 100 miles southwest of San Diego, the USS Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was a floating city of military power, running combat drills before deploying to the Persian Gulf. At the absolute tip of the spear was Commander David Fravor, the commanding officer of Strike Fighter Squadron 41, the Black Aces. A graduate of the legendary Top Gun Naval Flight School with 18 years of experience, Fravor was the very definition of a modern fighter pilot. Cool, confident, and trained for anything. He and his wingman, Lieutenant Commander Alex Dietrich, launched their FA-18F Super Hornets for a standard training mission. These jets were marvels of military engineering, but they weren't armed for a fight. It was just a drill. The weather was, as Fravor would later put it, as close to a perfect day as you could ask. The sea was calm, the winds were light, and there wasn't a cloud in the sky. But that routine was about to be shattered. The Combat Direction Center on the USS Princeton, a Ticonderoga-class guided missile cruiser, had been tracking those strange radar contacts for 2 weeks. The operators were completely baffled. The objects were making maneuvers that were simply impossible. They'd pop up at 80,000 feet where the air is thin and then drop to 20,000 feet in the blink of an eye. Then they would just hover for hours before rocketing straight back up. These weren't commercial planes, and they weren't any known military aircraft. Not ours, and not anyone else's. Just as Fravor and Dietrich were getting ready for their exercise, the call came from the Princeton's air controller. The training mission was off. They had a new, real-world task. The controller had a solid lock on one of these mysterious objects and wanted Fravor's flight to go check it out. With no idea what they were about to see, the two Super Hornets banked towards the coordinates, flying toward a patch of empty ocean under a flawless blue sky. As the two FA-18s rocketed towards the target area, the voice of the Princeton controller calmly counted down the distance. At 20,000 feet, Fravor, Dietrich, and their two backseaters scanned the horizon. Then, the controller announced, "Merge plot," which meant their jet's radar blip was now in the exact same spot as the mystery object. But when they looked out, they saw nothing. No planes, no smoke trails, just the vast, empty Pacific. Then, Fravor saw it. Down below, in an otherwise calm blue sea, was a patch of churning white water. It was huge, maybe the size of a Boeing 737, looking as if the ocean itself was boiling over something massive just under the surface. It was a bizarre sight on a day with almost no waves. And hovering right above it, moving erratically, was the object. I said, "Dude, do you see that thing down there?" Fravor later recalled. There, against the chaos of the churning water, was a small, white, oblong object. It was perfectly smooth, with no sharp edges or markings. It had no wings, no rotors, and no exhaust. All four aviators, Fravor, Dietrich, and their two weapons systems officers, just watched it for about 5 minutes. Fravor would later describe it as looking like a Tic Tac, a name that would stick forever. It was about 40 feet long, roughly the same size as his own fighter jet. The object darted around above the disturbance, moving, as Fravor described it, like a ping-pong ball. Its movements were abrupt and totally unpredictable, unlike any aircraft he'd ever seen. Lieutenant Commander Dietrich tried to describe its motion by asking if you've ever dropped your phone and watched it bounce erratically. It had no predictable movement, no predictable trajectory, she said. Fascinated and professionally curious, Fravor made a decision. He was going in for a closer look. He told Dietrich to stay high and provide cover, and he began a slow, deliberate, circular descent toward the object. This is the moment where the laws of physics seem to just break. As Fravor spiraled his jet down towards the Tic Tac, the object actually reacted. It stopped its chaotic, side-to-side movements and turned. Its long axis, which had been pointing north-south, suddenly lined up with Fravor's FA-18. Then it began to climb, mirroring his flight path but in reverse, coming up to meet him. It was aware we were there, Fravor stated. This thing wasn't just an object. It was intelligent, and it was reacting to him. He continued his turn, planning to cut it off to get an even closer look. He was now at about 15,000 feet, with the Tic Tac climbing toward 12,000. As he pulled the nose of his Super Hornet around to intercept, getting to within about half a mile, the Tic Tac did something that left the veteran pilot absolutely speechless. It accelerated. In an instant, it was just gone. Not just fast, but gone. Faster than I'd ever seen anything in my life, Fravor said. There was no sonic boom, no exhaust trail, nothing. One moment it was there, climbing to meet him, and the next it had vanished into the clear blue sky. The other jet, thousands of feet above, lost visual at the exact same time. Stunned, the pilots looked back down at the ocean. The huge patch of churning white water, the very thing that had caught their attention in the first place, was gone too. The sea was perfectly calm again, as if nothing had ever been there. As the two jets started to head back toward their original rendezvous point, the cap point, the controller from the USS Princeton came back on the radio, his voice crackling with sheer disbelief. "Sir, you're not going to believe this," he said, "but that thing is at your cap point." The object had reappeared on the Princeton's radar at the pilot's pre-assigned rally point, a full 60 miles away. It had traveled that distance in less than a minute. The pilots were floored. The speed required to do that was astronomical, far beyond what any known aircraft could even dream of achieving. Shaken and buzzing with adrenaline, Fravor and Dietrich flew back to the USS Nimitz. As they were getting out of their flight gear, they told the next crew getting ready to launch what they'd just seen. That crew included Lieutenant Chad Underwood. Underwood's FA-18 happened to be equipped with an advanced forward-looking infrared, or FLIR, targeting pod. His new mission was to try and find the object again. After he took off, he never saw it with his own eyes, but his powerful AN/ASQ228 ATFLIR pod did. He got a lock. For about 90 seconds, Underwood recorded the now famous infrared video of the Tic Tac. The grainy, black and white footage shows the object rotating and then accelerating at an incredible speed, zipping off the left side of the screen before the advanced targeting system could even react. It was Underwood who actually coined the term Tic Tac after seeing its shape on his screen. When Fravor and his crew got back to the ship, they were met with a mix of curiosity and ridicule. There were men in black jokes and knowing chuckles. There was no formal debrief, no serious investigation. According to some sailors on the USS Princeton, the story got even weirder. They reported that shortly after the incident, unknown personnel arrived by helicopter and demanded all data recordings and logs related to the event. This part of the story remains anecdotal, but it adds to the mystery, suggesting that the physical evidence, including high-fidelity radar tapes that allegedly showed the object actively jamming the Navy's top-tier radar, seemed to vanish. For years, the incident became little more than a great story with friends. Fravor retired from the Navy in 2006, and the unbelievable events of that day stayed mostly within the military community, a wild tale shared between pilots. It wasn't until 2009 that Fravor was contacted by an official from a secret Pentagon program called the Advanced Aviation Threat Identification Program, or AATIP. The most credible UFO encounter in modern military history was finally being investigated. The dam of silence finally broke in December 2017. The New York Times published a bombshell report that revealed the existence of the secret AATIP program. And with it, they released the declassified footage captured by Chad Underwood's FLIR pod. Suddenly, the entire world could see what those Navy pilots had witnessed. The story of David Fravor and the Tic Tac was no longer a military legend. It was a global headline. The Pentagon officially confirmed the authenticity of the video, along with two others from a separate 2015 incident in 2020. They were designated as Unidentified Aerial Phenomena, or UAPs. That official acknowledgement changed the conversation completely. The stigma that had stopped so many pilots from reporting strange sightings for decades began to crumble. In the years since, both David Fravor and Alex Dietrich have spoken publicly about what they saw. Their credibility as highly trained, decorated military officers gives their testimony incredible weight. In July 2023, Fravor, along with another former Navy pilot, Ryan Graves, testified under oath before a U.S. House Oversight Committee. He looked directly at the nation's elected officials and gave a chilling summary of what he encountered. The technology that we faced was far superior than anything that we had, he stated. He described an object with no visible means of propulsion that could perform maneuvers impossible for our current technology. He wasn't talking about something that was just a little more advanced. He was describing a technological leap so huge it was incomprehensible. The Nimitz incident remains officially unresolved. It is one of over 1,600 UAP reports the Pentagon has reviewed, many of which have been explained away. But not this one. The combination of multiple, highly credible eyewitnesses, data from one of the world's most advanced radar systems, and verified infrared video makes the Tic Tac encounter a cornerstone of the modern UAP discussion. It forced a conversation that governments could no longer ignore, leading directly to the UAP task forces and congressional hearings that continue today. The events of that clear November day did more than just present a mystery. They posed a fundamental question about our place in the universe. It's a question that started with a blip on a radar screen and ended with four of the world's best pilots staring at something that, by all accounts, was not of this world. The 2004 Nimitz encounter is just one of many declassified military cases that are challenging what we think is possible. From encounters with mysterious cubes inside transparent spheres to objects that can move seamlessly from the sky into the ocean. The evidence is building. If you want to explore more of these declassified files and hear more incredible true stories from the people who were there, make sure you subscribe. What David Fravor and his fellow pilots saw was not a weather balloon or a trick of the light. It was a real, physical object that showed off flight characteristics far beyond our current scientific understanding. It moved with an intelligence and a purpose that was both undeniable and deeply unsettling. The story of the Tic Tac isn't just a UFO story. It's a story about a moment when humanity came into contact with a technology so advanced it looked like magic. It's a reminder that there are still profound mysteries out there, and that sometimes the most extraordinary truths are hidden in plain sight, just waiting for us to look up. The question is no longer if these things are real, but what they are and what their presence means for all of us.